This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
Welcome to another conversation here on the Retirement Solution with financial advisor John Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital. I'm Heather Branch, here with John every week on the radio, asking for his insight on things you can be working on, things he wants you to know about as you get closer to retirement after decades in the working world, maybe, decades of running your own business. Heaven help. You can attest to that.
I don't wish that upon anyone. Even though if you've been doing it for decades, chances are you've been pretty good at it. You've grown over the years. As a first-hand struggler on the struggle bus of being a business owner, I really don't wish it on anyone. If it's not, staffing or market situations or macroeconomy or tax issues or zoning issues or government issues, it all seems like it's all the time. It always compounds.
It is.
It's not for the faint of heart.
That's why I have always been employed by an employer. I don't want to bear the burden it is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation when it's your business. Period.
It really is. I was talking to someone a while ago, and they were just like, John, when's the last time you had an employer? Yeah. This is important. When's the last time you weren't in business for yourself? I was 25 years old. Wow. And I'll be 50 this year. So, we're talking half of my adult life.
More than half of your adult life. You're almost your entire adult life.
My adult life, it's like almost all of it, right? Yeah. So, but for 25 years, I've been self-employed. So, there's a lot of things that people talk to me about their employer. I remember it's just been a while, right? Mm-hmm. The cubicle work and the water cooler talk and all that stuff. We have that in our office too. Yeah. The difference is it's, I pay for the water cooler, That's
you guys have been hanging around the water cooler too long. Get out of that water cooler.
Hey, you guys get away from that Aquafina. I've had about enough of that. I'm going to start docking your pay for 5 cents an hour.
Whether you are working for somebody, I know. And I know that you're it's a pride thing for you to be able to say you're a business owner here in Louisville and working with folks all around the Louisville area. It's definitely important to you and the work that you do at J. Hagan Capital. Being a Kentucky boy too, it's something that you take to heart and you mean the work that you do. And obviously, John and his team, they're here for you as well. If you've got questions, if you're ready to begin the conversation about how to do better by yourself through a proper plan for retirement, give us a call. 502-317-0840 is how you can set some time to meet with one of our advisors at J. Hagan Capital. You can also visit us anytime at retirementsolutionradio.com. Thinking about folks getting closer to this phase of life, they're not in a good headspace, John.
It's weird. I've seen some of the, I know what we're going to talk about here. Yeah. I saw some of those headlines. And
These numbers of what our confidence in retirement planning is at an all-time low.
Say that again. That's important. So people that are thinking about retirement, their confidence in retirement planning is at an all-time low.
If you go back to 2020 and think about everything that was happening in the world in 2020. It
was crazy.
If you go back to 2020, 83% of people thought that they would have a successful retirement. Today, that number has dropped to 70%. Only 70%. 70. So that's an all-time low, according to research. The research found that instead of looking forward to our golden years, our Americans are more fearful than ever. This is, John, think about the market run we've been on. This is despite 3 straight years of double-digit gains.
3 great years.
Fueling our 401ks.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on here? What do you think is the reason behind this attitude change?
It's interesting. And this is what I would call an emotional disconnection, right? So a lot of things that we're seeing out there, everything is very polarized, right? So whether you do or do not like this administration or the previous, what I would say is that both of them have been very polarizing. So it seems like whether things are going your direction or not, there's just a lot of other stuff out there that seems like it's bad, right? So when we're talking about retirement in general, what most people are thinking is, am I going to make it, right? Mm-hmm. Am I going to have enough money? Did I save enough so that if I quit working next year, that I'm going to have enough to live off of for a while? And here's the problem. It's not that the numbers don't look okay. On paper, they may even look okay. But here's the problem. Every time they go to Kroger, every time they go to Costco, every time they go to the gas pump, those numbers are very different than we saw 10 years ago.
You can't do any of those runs with unless you're buying like one thing, but a gas pump, a run to Kroger, run to Costco, $100 at least.
It's crazy to me because I was thinking, we got this cold weather here in Kentucky right now. It's like, I really want like pot roast. Like it was just, we have not done yet that we've done a lot of chili, we've done some soups, but it was kind of like, oh, pot roast.
Yeah.
And I went to Kroger and I was just looking for, what cheap stuff they got, rump roast. It doesn't make any difference. If it sits in a crock pot long enough for the pressure cooker, it will be perfect. And it was like the cheapest cut of beef was like $8.99 a pound. So, we typically do a lot of pot roast because I like it that night. I like it for the next 3-4 days. I love it.
Yeah.
And what I would typically have paid, I don't know, $17 for, $18 for, whatever the number would be, was like $40. I was going to say $34,
$40.
And here's the thing. It's not the money, it's the principle.
That's
and
right.
I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get that. I'm going to get the chicken instead. And that's exactly what I did. Now, but that mentality, right? That whole thing is like, I'm having to sacrifice. It literally is not the amount of money. It's the principle that mentally is affecting a lot of us, right? Even in me, right? I'm looking at, the cost for school tuition and things like that coming up, for this upcoming year, looking at programs for the kids for the summer, to make sure that they stay acclimated and keep their, their minds sharp, even though I want them to have a great time and have fun in the off season. But having said that, I'm looking at all these numbers. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. How would that work? So mentally, we've just seen a lot of really weird stuff. Now, the lowest that we've seen for confidence in retirement, though, that's an easy fix. And we're going to talk about how to fix it. But there's a couple things I want to get in first, right? Okay. So when most people are looking at these things, the biggest things that I hear them say to me, number one, hey, John, just prices are crazy. I know that they say inflation's coming down, but it's still really high. Number one. Number two, I am fearful of healthcare. I am fearful of what it's going to be. I'm not talking long-term care. I'm just talking my general health. Like I've watched my mother or my father deteriorate, or I watched my grandparents or I'm starting to have some aches and pains now in my late 50s, early 60s. And I'm starting to wonder, is this going to be is this going to last with me forever? Am I going to have to deal with this? Because that medication is not cheap, right? Healthcare costs are a big one. And then frankly, it's just the headlines. So those are the big three. The headlines are big, right? Whenever the current administration is doing something, he doesn't do it half, but he goes in all in, whether it's a great idea or a potential calamity. It makes no difference. And by the way, if you read his book, Art of the Deal, this is part of negotiating tactics. It doesn't mean that I'm for it. But my goodness, when you make outlandish statements that shake up the whole world, cause NATO to say, hold on, what are you doing? You're going to invade Greenland? Well, my guess is that was never an idea. But the point is, when we hear this, it just makes us go, hold on. Why are we making a whole bunch of enemies all over the rest of the world? Why are we doing that? I want to retire the next 3 years. This is uncomfortable. What is going to happen here, right? And then the last piece is that you put all those things, that anxiety, those things that we can't control, and you put it with one thing. The last 18 years has been the most wonderful growth we have ever seen in this country. 18 years. And we're on a 3-year streak of a really good time, but 18 has been unbelievable. If you retired, ladies and gentlemen, if you've had your money in the U.S. stock market, your 401k or IRA or whatever, and you decided to retire today, chances are you would be retiring at the highest pinnacle point of the history of the United States in the markets. Think about that for one quick second. Because a lot of people go, that is awesome, but I'm not ready to retire yet. I've got 3 or 4 years. Yeah. What is the statistical likelihood of all of this going straight downhill into a dumpster fire right when I want to put in my 2 weeks? And guys, that's for real. That's for real. So there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about right now on how to fix that. Number one, don't concentrate on things we can't control. There is one thing I know for a fact. Even people that work for the administration in the cabinet do not take everything that Trump says 100% factually. They take it with a grain of salt, and that's wise. It's very wise because most of those things that they're talking about really will not affect us very much. That's just the truth. Okay. So we have to understand that first. Secondly, when you see your statements, and a lot of you guys out there, I see it, you guys put them in Excel spreadsheets and you quantify everything, and these, all your numbers, and you look at it every day. Guys, those are just numbers. You can't spend numbers. You can only spend income in retirement. You can't spend a number. You can't even spend a growth rate. You can spend income. So one of the things that will satisfy most everyone's fear factor is if they know where the income is going to come from in retirement. Because by the way, once we decide we're not going to work anymore, the only outcome that matters is income. Think about that. It's an easy way to remember it. The only outcome that matters in retirement is income. If you are flush with great income in retirement, you don't have to worry about too much else. That's just the truth. That's just how it works. You can satisfy the inflationary issues. You can satisfy the market issues. You can satisfy healthcare issues, all those things if we have a really great income. So think about that. So what I want everyone to understand is the things we can control. You need to have a comprehensive strategy, which means it's not just the balances you have. That is only a small piece of the puzzle. How does it work together? How are you protected? Because I do think the markets are going to go through some weird volatility. Okay. I don't think they're going to go down and stay down. But I do know when I'm looking at the markets right now, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I would love for some of my guys to pull the trigger early and retire a little early. If we just protect what they got and get them a great income stream, this could be one of the most awesome retirements that they will ever have the chance of living.
It's almost like it's not worth another couple of years in the working world.
In my opinion,
some cases,
I do the math all the time. Yeah. And I'm going to say 70% of the time, almost 7 out of 10 times, Heather, I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, you can leave tomorrow if you want to. But it's not about retiring. It's like, what are we retiring to? What are we going to do next? What's the next journey? What's the next chapter of the book? What do you want to accomplish? What are those bucket list items that we haven't checked off yet? If someone has good enough reasons for that, I am honestly trying to talk them into consider retiring a little early because I do see it, guys. And I just don't think that this gravy train is going to roll on forever. And I would love for someone to lock in a great income, great protection, and all that awesome growth we've had over the last 18 years and know for a fact, man, you nailed it. Because there's no guarantee that a year from now or 3 years from now, after the next administration comes in, whenever that is, that it's going to stay at this point, right? So number one, make sure you have a comprehensive plan. It needs to incorporate protection, income, taxes, wealth transfer, and healthcare. If you have all 5 of those things, there's not a whole bunch to really worry about. Yes, read the headlines, but frankly, just like I said a minute ago, just take it with a grain of salt. It shouldn't matter that much. If you have a solid income that comes in every month, you really don't have to worry about too much. Even if you had nothing in your bank account, but you had $15,000 more than you need on a quarterly basis, could you probably make things work? Yeah, most people could. So think about that. Control the things you can't. If you do not have a full comprehensive strategy, a full plan, call our guys, call my team. Let us do the math for you. Because again, like I'm not messing around. This could be the greatest period of time ever for people to retire if they do it correctly.
All right, let's talk about one of your favorite things to talk about, which is, of course, taxes. More importantly, how to reduce what we might have to pay in taxes in our retirement years. The OBA is bringing in new tax breaks for people over the age of 65 as of this year, as of 2026. But do these tax breaks apply to you? Never pay $1 more than you have to. Is the goal of, I know the tax work you guys do at J. Hagan Capital. You're not CPAs, but you do have in-house CPAs and tax attorneys, correct?
Absolutely.
And you are obviously looking for every tax break possible. But the page, the code's 7,000 pages long. Is that right?
74,000 pages.
74,000? Okay.
74,000 pages of U.S. tax code.
That's just the first chapter of the 7,000 pages.
This is why no one really knows it very well. And when they change the rules, like, hold on, what else does that affect? It's a big deal. But that's why we brought in CPAs and tax attorneys into the firm. I needed them personally for myself. I needed to figure out, hey, I'm a small business owner. We're not the richest people on the planet, but we want to make sure that we're being good stewards of our money, giving the government what it's owed, but then spending the rest on our clients and, frankly, our employees so we can get the best talent. And what I realized is these guys are worth their weight in gold, if you think about it, because taxes are the largest expense that almost all of us will pay, whether we're giving away 25% or almost 50 or even more than 50% of what we earn. Think about if you had the way to just keep more of that, you don't even have to earn more in the market. You don't have to get more from your bank account interest rate. You just keep more of what you made in the first place. So much better. It
sounds simple enough. And yet here we are with the 74,000 page tax code. Let's talk about one rule specifically that's happening this year. A new tax break for seniors that could make a real difference thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Anyone 65 or older can claim, I'm saying anyone with an asterisk, this is where I want you to check me, John. Anyone 65 or older can claim an extra deduction, $6,000 for singles, $12,000 for couples, that on top of the standard deduction. So this creates a nice perk for seniors. However, how does this deduction work for those at higher income levels? Because it doesn't necessarily apply to anyone over 65. Is that correct?
Correct. It phases out. Yeah. So the great thing about the OBA, it did a few things that I think are going to be very attractive for the average retiree. So if you have a household income of under $150,000 married filing jointly, or under $75,000 for an individual, you basically get a stackable $6,000 for an individual or $12,000 for a couple in deduction. So you add that onto your standard deduction and other deductions you have, charitable giving, all those kind of things. That is great, guys. That's really good. We haven't seen it that high. So we're creating an environment now where your standard deduction plus this extra $6,000 per person really kind of gets very good. If you have a household retirement income of, let's say, 60 grand, you could potentially pay no taxes or very limited taxes, depending on what state you live in, for the whole year, which is pretty remarkable when you kind of think about it. And then, of course, also, it basically reduces the amount that we may pay on Social Security taxation or even IRMA, which is the Medicare extra tax. So it becomes a pretty good thing. Now, what we run into all the time, though, is people that are saying that I'm about to retire, John, or I just retired. My taxes are simple. I don't need to worry about all that. Let's think about that for a quick second. When people say I'm about to retire or I'm retired, it's like, well, it may not work exactly the way you think. It's like, well, my income's real easy. I was like, perfect. So when you were working, where did your income come from? Well, I had a W-2 from my employer. Excellent. Did your spouse work? Yes, they did. Did they have a W-2? Yes, I did. Guys, that means you have two basic pieces of paper, and that's what you put on your tax return, and that's what you pay taxes on.
Yep.
That's easy, and that's when you're working. Now let's think about retirement. In retirement, do you get Social Security income? What about pension income? You get interest paid from banks? How many different banks? Did you pull money from your IRA? Do you have more than one IRA? What about a Roth IRA? All these different things. Do you have rental income? Do you ever do depreciation deductions? Do you own any real estate? All these things that happen when we're in retirement, believe it or not, it creates a more complex tax environment. Is that bad? No. Not at all. I love the complexity. I think the complexity is good because it gives us a lot of opportunities to massage the tax code correctly, and it means exploit. We want to be exploiters of the tax code. We're not doing anything wrong. We just want to utilize it to our best ability so that we keep more of our money and keep Uncle Sam at bay. Give him absolutely what he is owed, but not a penny more. And I think that when we have this type of tax break, it's great. But the big thing I want to focus on is the tax aspect in general, right? So Heather, if you're thinking about the largest bills that you're ever going to have in life, what do you think, as you're thinking about your life, the largest bills that you've ever had, what are the things that come to mind for you?
We were talking before we were...
I know.
Before we came on, and I was saying to you about how Kyle and I moved into a new house that was built in 2018, and since we've moved in 2 years ago, we've had to replace all the windows and the plumbing. So things that,
those
what my house costs... No, but I would say probably overall, especially in retirement, you automatically think about, especially I'm a woman, I'll probably have to have long-term care at some point. That's going to be a big issue, the medical expenses.
Absolutely. If you think about all of them, so like you buy a house, you have to maintain the car. We got plumbing issues that cost, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. But windows, I know, are unbelievably expensive because I've had to replace windows a few times. Believe it or not, all of those things just pale in comparison to giving anywhere between 15 to 50% a year to the federal government. And yet, most people do not have a standalone CPA specifically for the retirement finances. Guys, this is why we brought in CPAs and tax attorneys into our firm. We found that the average retiree that saved about $800,000 or more, the average, our CPAs and tax attorneys can save them hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of their retirement. Not because we're doing anything slick or anything different. All we're doing is putting the right assets in the right buckets and pulling from them at the right times. It's literally that simple. It is not more complicated than that. And yet, most people do not understand it. Most CPAs, we have to train on this, not because they're not good people, not because they're not good CPAs. They don't focus on retirement income distribution planning, and that is of paramount importance. It's frankly, even if you do not have a financial advisor to manage assets, you really should consider having a financial advisor when it comes to your taxation. A lot of people can do the asset selection on their own, whether it's Vanguard or Schwab, or they just love really dividend paying stocks. All that's fine. Most people don't even need a financial advisor for that because they're smart when it comes to finances. But the tax aspect is huge, and it is unbelievably overwhelming how much money that someone is leaving on the table by not doing that. That's a big deal. So where I see this as an opportunity for couples that want to have, I don't know, anywhere between $100,000 to $150,000 a year of household income in retirement. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you think you can't do that, call my team. The point is that you would be surprised what you can do if you have the right planning in place. Not only protection, but how are we going to create the income? When we create the income, how's it going to be taxed? How much do you get to keep versus how much goes to the government? How much goes to your heirs once you're gone? Should you diversify with real estate? What other trusts should you consider using? All of those things come in, and that is usually outside of the parameters of a standard CPA and certainly outside of the parameters of a standard financial advisor or whatever these guys call themselves. But if you have a skilled fiduciary that has CPAs and tax attorneys on staff, all of this stuff opens up to create more opportunities for you to keep money in your pockets. So OBA was big, not just because of breaks like this, but it opened up some of the loopholes that we used to see in the tax code that have not been around since the Clinton administration. We're talking quite some time. This has been on the books forever. It's not new.
Okay.
It just was not as attractive. We didn't have bonus depreciation. We didn't have certain regulations when it comes to real estate that we have now. And when I'm thinking about our clientele, and many of them have lake houses or houses in the South, or take your pick, there are so many things that we can do from a tax standpoint to utilize those assets to reduce taxation as a whole. People just don't understand it.
Yeah.
So because they have their financial guy puts them in mutual funds and stocks and bonds and annuities and whatever, and that's fine. But then they have their CPA who basically just records last year's tax documents. Neither one of those guys are talking to each other. Neither one of those guys have any idea that you want to exploit the system and or just be the most efficient you can. And that's where we go in day one to look at how can we create a situation. It almost has nothing to do with products. It has everything to do with the process of making sure that if you've saved X amount of dollars, number one, we want to protect all that. But number two, how do we get to use more over the course of our lives and not give it away to the government? And when we're gone, how do we make sure it goes to our heirs and our beneficiaries and our churches and our charities the way we want and not to someone else?
Yeah.
It requires real planning. But having said that, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the average bear if they get it right.
Working to help you do that, getting it right, and understand what your options and opportunities are, because I was thinking what you were saying as far as what we think is the largest expense, because I feel like a lot of us, particularly in our working years, John, we don't even think about taxes as something that is an expense to us, right? It's just, it gets taken out of our paycheck before, and then at the end of the year, hopefully if you've done it right, maybe you owe a couple $100 or you get back a couple $100. It's kind of a nulled out thing. So we don't even think about it. And you so often speak to all the mental shifts we have to make when we move into retirement, and tax planning and how we look at taxes is just another one of those things that we have to change our perspective on entirely in this next phase of life.
Yes, it's changing the paradigm of thinking. I mean, most of us, we get a little bit aggravated when we see how much we pay in taxes, but we don't know what to do about it.
Right.
And if we talk to our CPA, they don't want egg on their face. They don't want to say, well, I could have done all these things, but you didn't tell me when I had time. You only called me after the end of the year where I can't do anything about last year's taxes, right? So because of that, and they don't want to work in the off season. The last thing I've ever heard in my life is that CPAs want to go into work all summer long. They just don't. Because that's their downtime after tax season. They have awesome lake houses and they go do their thing and they enjoy it. But done correctly, the tax aspect of things could put more money in your pocket than any other thing you do. More than selecting the great stocks or the great mutual funds or the great annuities, it can add more money to your pocket than anything else. Yeah. And there are real plans to get there. It just depends on what you want to accomplish.
Of course, when you get to retirement, you arrive with your nest egg that you've worked so hard to earn and save. But that nest egg can go far beyond your life. It can go on to benefit the lives of your kids and your grandkids when you've got the proper estate plan in place. And that's what we're going to talk about right now, John. And this article on Kiplinger.com saying an easy way to cover your estate planning needs is to remember the 5 Ds. So we're going to talk about what those are. Of course, estate planning is one of the pillars that you at J. Hagan Capital incorporate into every plan that you build.
Absolutely.
I guess does estate planning, wealth transfer, that's kind of the first step of no, that's not right.
No, it's a good point. So, I mean, most people, they've never really thought about it. So most people that have a will, they think, their estate plan is done. What we realized over the years is that when we have our clientele, the first time that there's kind of a big shift is unfortunately when we lose a spouse.
Right.
So what we realized is there's wealth transfer that happens long before a will is really ever executed, right?
Okay.
So that's why instead of calling it estate planning or dealing with wills, we actually call it wealth transfer.
Got it.
Because what we learned over the years is, and let's just use this as an example, because I remember the exact couple when I realized we needed to incorporate this into our firm. So these had been clients for years and years and years, and unfortunately, wonderful couple. They were probably in their late 70s, early 80s. And the husband passed away. Wonderful guy, hated it so much. It was terrible. What we saw then for the very first time, because they told me everything, and this was probably 19 years ago. They told me everything. And so when I saw all of a sudden that when the assets went from joint assets to just go to the surviving spouse, all of a sudden we had different tax consequences. We had different RMD consequences. We had different issues that came with home ownership. We had all kinds of different things that we had never addressed. We had never discussed because they had a will. Right? They had I'm like, well, we're not lawyers. We don't do that. My dad was a lawyer, but I didn't do that. And so how would that involve me? But what I realized is all the other things, we had to change assets. We had to change income structures. We had to change tax design. We had to do everything. And I realized, oh my gosh, this could have all been avoided and they could have been in substantially better situations had we had an actual wealth transfer plan, not a will, wealth transfer. And all wealth transfer is just making certain that if anything happens to derail the plan, you get incapacitated, right? Or you have to go to an assisted living facility, or you cannot make decisions on your own, or you don't want to be hooked up on a machine for life support. All of those things can be handled long before they ever happen. They can be decided so that when we're in those situations, and I hate to say it, but it's true, it's not if, but sadly when we're in those situations, we don't have to worry about what to do now.
Right.
We simply worry about how do we make sure that everyone's taken care of, we're getting the best treatment we can. We don't have to worry about finances. We don't have to take any extra measures because we already know once this happens, this triggers this and it's automated. And it's going to be the best thought process. So wealth transfer is making sure that a surviving spouse has what they need, because they will be in a more oppressive, usually 99% of the time, a more oppressive tax situation. They will have completely different RMD structures based on their ages. They will have all kinds of different elements that they deal with financially, on top of the fact they've just lost their life partner. And that is overwhelming enough for most people. So in our process, we go through very simply, number one, we want to make sure that of all the assets, this is for all retirement, 5 pillars. Number one, protect what we got. Doesn't mean put it under the mattress. We just need to know how it's protected. Number 2, develop the income stream. Number 3, have a tax strategy that works. Number 4 is wealth transfer. And then number 5 is healthcare directives. Making sure that even though I do not love long-term care insurance, we need to know how would we pay for that. Unfortunately, not if, but when it does happen, we want to make sure we're being tax efficient, right? So when we're thinking about wealth transfer, it's a big deal. And by the way, almost all of it, even if you have a great will, it has nothing to do with it. And that's why they talk about the 5 Ds of estate planning, essentially the 5 Ds.
Let's
go through those, Heather.
Let's dive into this a little bit deeper regarding that particular pillar covering your estate planning. Kiplinger.com says an easy way to make sure that you're covered in this space is to remember the 5 Ds: dependence, divorce, downsizing, disability, and death.
Sure.
You brought up having a will.
Yeah.
Do these things, can they all be covered by a will? Or maybe the 6th D we got to bring to the conversation, the documentation we need. Is it not all covered by a will? What do we need then?
So if you think about it, all a will just says who gets what you got when you die, and it establishes your executor, who's in charge.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't do anything else. That is all it does, right? So it doesn't have anything to do with disability. Doesn't have anything to do with divorce. Doesn't have anything to do with downsizing. Doesn't have anything to do with most of those other things. Healthcare directives. Do you want to be hooked up on a machine or do you not? How do you want to live those rest of your life? If you're incapacitated, like my father had a stroke. He could not and he lasted for 9 more years, thank goodness, but he could not make financial decisions. So that's where we had to have, and think about it, a will would not have helped there. We needed to actually have things. So if you have a will, it doesn't do anything really while you're still alive. So disability, divorce, or downsizing, it doesn't help at all. Now, what it does do is it deals with your death and the dependents. Who gets what when you're gone? Once those assets are done that way, you have no control, right? So a lot of people, this is where we say, now let's talk about a trust, or let's talk about a living trust. Some people have living wills. We'll go into that here in just a second. But one of the things we all have, two things we have to have. We have to have a financial power of attorney with that will. And it's usually not included in the will. Usually it's not.
Okay.
This says that if you were incapacitated, unfortunately you had a stroke and you can't make sound judged decisions, who is then allowed to do that? Is it going to be your spouse? Does it need to be one of your children? Does it need to be your brother or sister? Who is it? Because you want to have that established beforehand. Someone to guide, maybe a surviving spouse or the spouse, to guide them in making those decisions. Mm-hmm. I don't often think it's great to have a financial advisor in that capacity. As a matter of fact, I think it's not good.
Okay.
So this is where you want to have a solid family member that can actually help give guidance, right? That's important, super important. So a living will can accomplish that because it has those advanced directives. If you do have a disability, then it will make certain that you understand financial decisions. And then if you want to be on life support or not, they're all done. So you can have that done. Living trusts will actually do a lot of that too. So if you have those in place, you're better off.
Okay.
Now, here's what I think most people need to have. I think they need to have an actual wealth transfer plan.
Okay.
And what this basically states is...
Does that include a will?
It can. I prefer living trusts is what I prefer. Okay. Now, there's a difference. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to have a trust because it gives me different tax consequences. No, it does not. So in order for your trust to have any kind of tax consequence, it usually has to be irrevocable. So that is the only one that have a tax consequence. Now, most people, unless you are worth $5, $6, $7, $8+ million, most people do not need an irrevocable trust. They don't. They really don't, because all of your assets can be transferred very easily and simply with beneficiary claims and other things that we can do that are a lot less costly, and you have total control of your money. Right.
Yep.
But a living trust gives us the opportunity to basically have the will, but you can state other things. You can state, hey, this is the amount of money that I want to go to the kids. I don't want them to get all $9 million all at once. I want them to only get $250,000 a year for each year that they're employed, or la. It can't go to any divorced person from the family, not your children, but like if they were married with someone and that spouse is no longer involved. But it can go down to children. The thing I like about living trusts is that you can make decisions as you want to. They can change and be fluid, just like our lives. They don't have any different tax consequences. Some people don't like that, but frankly, I think it's fine. Mm-hmm. But it will solve a lot of the other issues. And if it's done ahead of time, no one has to worry. No one has the anxiety. No one has that feeling like there's just this huge elephant on their shoulder when they're going through the grieving process or going through the situation, right? Because again, my father passed away, but he had 9 years after he had a stroke, where unfortunately my mother blew through about $600,000 of money that he had saved.
Well, she didn't blow through it, but she had to pour it into his care. Yeah.
It was gone. For in-home care, because she couldn't tolerate the idea of him being in a facility. She wanted him there with him, but she couldn't do it on her own. Yeah. So they went through almost all of his retirement savings, which was insult to injury, because we didn't know how to plan for that back in the day. This was years and years and years ago. It came out of his IRA that he had saved for both of them. So when the money was coming out, it was basically compound taxed in that same situation. So it just made a bad situation. So we work our way around those now. So when we're thinking about if we have a will, is that enough? And here's the thing. If you don't know what you really want to do, living trust gives you ultimate flexibility. I'm not saying go out and getting a living trust, but this would be one of those times to call our office, find out, are you in the right spot? What should you do? Because believe it or not, wealth transfer is the fourth pillar. Protection, income, tax design all take precedence until we get there. But once we get there, we don't want any of those rules that we're going to do with the trust to overwrite the three more important parts, right? So that's why we do it in order. But by doing that correctly, not only will you have much more comfort in making better decisions, you'll know that you should not have anything other than taking care of that person in that situation, or taking care of yourself to grieve properly. You will not have to worry about financial decisions until it's truly important that you do that. That is worth a lot.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to understanding all of these different documents that go into an overall estate plan, as John was pointing out, the wealth transfer plan that he believes are so important for his clients to have, let's get to work helping you understand how they relate to you and your plan and your goals for the years ahead. Not just the goals for yourself in the years ahead, but the goals that you have for your assets after you're gone, for your family, for your kids and grandkids. John and his team at J. Hagan Capital, they can help you figure these things out. They've got in-house attorneys at J. Hagan Capital. That's a big differentiator, I believe, from what you guys do versus what a lot of other retirement planning firms do.
Sure.
They have in-house attorneys to help you understand how to bring all these pieces together in a plan for you, your family, your goals for the years ahead. RetirementSolutionsShow.com is our website and where you can go to begin the conversation with John and his team. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there, or again, it's RetirementSolutionsShow.com. We're going to get into a little bit of football because how can we not? Go Hoosiers!
Oh, look at that. I know. First national championship. But let's be real. Anyone out there knows this. You know, Mark Cuban was in the stands. I saw him cheering wildly. I mean, I know that he had gone to IU's business school, but I don't think he'd ever really been a football fan.
Yeah.
At least not of IU, because it'd be impossible. They were the doormat of the Big Ten forever, just the way that Kentucky was for so long, Vanderbilt was for so long in the SEC. And I'll be danged, Indiana, what a great coach. What a turnaround story.
His second year.
That is amazing. I'd never heard of this dude.
It's right.
Ever. Until last year, I'm like, okay, this guy's not bad. And then this year, I'm like, holy moly, he did it for real.
He was.
Love it.
Yes, he was at JMU. And that's the thing, as I was listening to some of the sportscasters talking about him, and as a Virginia Tech Hokie, where we also have had legendary football coaches and programs, but have never won a national title. I am just sitting here thinking to myself, what is happening at the Virginia Tech University rooms right now because of the disaster that has been our football program the last few years. Yeah. And this coach, there are there are angry people at Virginia Tech right now going, are you kidding me? 2 years and they got a national title and what do we do?
I know.
Oh, no.
I know. So something about that, though, isn't it amazing that one decision can make a tremendous difference in the future? One decision, if it is a good
if it's the right
decision.
One.
And we think about this all the time, right? So, you know, one of the more interesting things, which is almost runs counter to that, is that Warren Buffett said, it's not about making the perfect decision. It's about consistently not making bad ones. Right. And I think a lot of programs, they consistently make bad decisions. Right. Indiana, we just saw, man, they just made a really good one. I think that they had a series of terrible decisions up until this one. Yeah. So we'll see how long it lasts. But man, go Hoosiers. Good for them.
Go Hoosiers. Good on them. Let's continue the football conversation and how something that we have done before many times is learned from professional athletes. I mean, you want to talk about people that have money, that have come into money, that just don't know what to do with that money, because we have seen one heartbreaking story after the next when it comes to professional athletes and their financial circumstances. Odell Beckham Jr. played 10 seasons in the NFL. He retired just a couple years ago. He also played a Super Bowl championship game with the LA Rams.
One with the Rams, yeah.
He made over $100 million in his career.
That's a lot
million
of money.
However, he recently told the Pivot podcast how he has struggled with this big money.
Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime. Yeah, this job that I sacrificed my whole life for, they are giving me that. I didn't ask for the certain dollar amount or whatever, but we weren't taught about no financial literacy. We weren't taught this skill.
Preach it, Mr. Beckham. We weren't taught no financial literacy. Said almost every American.
That's what I was going to say. That is not only for professional athletes. That's basically across the board, every one of us.
Yeah.
The closest thing that in my own life, when I didn't do it, the closest thing that I got to learning about 401k is at my very first job. They basically pushed this pamphlet over to me and said, hey, this is your 401k. You're eligible for it within 30 days. Yep. So go ahead and fill this thing out and, you know, we'll get that money invested for you. No help, no question answering, no nothing. And it's just a whole bunch of numbers, names of whatever. And
little letters and numbers.
What they've done.
Yeah.
Who knew anything? So Odell talking about that, I mean, I get it. I mean, we have dealt with that our entire lives.
Yeah.
But I do think it's amazing, right? I think it's interesting. So a guy that made $100 million. And he's still a young man. I mean, he's not even old. He's not even my age. He's much younger.
In his early 30s, I think.
Probably early to mid 30s. So he's just like
33.
But they don't tell you 33. Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine? Remember, 33 little babies.
I actually don't remember 33. But I mean, it seems it's been that long ago.
I know.
But it's a really good point to make, right? So his whole point was, listen, $100 million sounds like a lot of money. They didn't teach us how to do this stuff. But I want to do the quick math on some of this because I think a lot of us may be in a similar situation and we're just not even aware of it yet. People are like, I don't have $100,000 or $100 million. Very few people do.
Right.
But $100 million, by the time it got to Odell Beckham Jr., he did never receive $100 million. He had to pay taxes. He had to pay fees. He had to pay his agents. He had to pay all of these things. My guess is that he got between 50 to 60 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
So if he got $100 million contract, he probably actually took home closer to 50% of that. Okay. Most people also don't realize in professional sports, you will potentially pay a tax in cities that you play in, even if they're crazy. So like if you played in the Meadowlands, which is New Jersey, played the Jets, up there, that's Jersey. Jersey is a 13% tax rate on stuff. 11% in other areas. California, crazy. They have to pay taxes in those jurisdictions. So the federal rate is a little over, is roughly 40%. Odell Beckham played and won that Super Bowl with the Rams, right? Which was California. And that was an 11% tax rate on top of that. So he took less. And that is not including his agents and things like that. So when you think about that, he took home less than half. Now, that is why I get so crazy when I talk to people about taxes. I get almost enraged at the system for how it's built. The better we do, the more they want to punch us down. And I just don't like it. It's not a fair share. And all these people that say, billionaires need to pay their fair share. Billionaires got that way because they are doing something that most people can't do. And most of the billionaires I've ever seen, they create unbelievable jobs. Even though I don't 100% agree with a lot of things that Jeff Bezos does, who started and runs Amazon. The guy has created more jobs. He's made a disruptive company that, frankly, I don't know a single American that doesn't use. Mm-hmm. That is amazing to me. I think that's unreal. Mm-hmm. So when I think about these dollars, it's a big deal. But think about what he said about that. He didn't talk about griping about how much he pays. What he said is, I don't know if I can make it last. I mean, forever? Like forever money? And unfortunately, here's what I see. I see if a professional athlete has to wonder with $100 million of earnings about making his money last, why wouldn't our average American that's got $700,000 to $4 million, why aren't they worried about it sometimes a little more? Yeah. Or maybe they're overly worried about it because they don't have the right game plan. Yeah. So one of the things that Odell said is that, no one taught us financial literacy. I hope that he had really good guides and really good advisors along the way, because at 33 years old, it is going to be really hard, depending on how he spends, for him to retire at that age and not have any more money coming in for that to work.
Yep. The
average bear out there with in an American retirement system that's retiring at 60, right? Mm-hmm. With about $1 million, $1.5 million, that can be pushing it too, depending on how you want to live.
Right.
That is why so many of the things that we do in my office, it is purposely built so that we can give all of that, the greatest parts about being retired. I want everyone to front load retirement. That means while you're the youngest and the healthiest that you're probably going to be in retirement, I want you to live it up for the first 3 to 5 years. And I don't mean live it up like go spend lavishly and go to the most expensive steak houses. I mean, hey, this is the time for the Mediterranean cruises, because you're as young and you're as healthy as you're going to be over the course of retirement. Take that as a gift, because you still can potentially do that, right? Yeah. I want you to do all the things, hang out with the grandkids. Why do I want this? It's a double whammy. Number one, I want you to get that experience and not do what my parents did and not have the opportunity to do it because you had a health issue, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing is I want you to have the memories, because it gives you something to talk about, something to latch onto, something for you to experience that you will have for the next 20 to 35 years of being retired. That is the gift. That is what I want people to experience. It is so important, and it's empowering too. When you realize how gorgeous Madrid is, but you didn't get the chance to go to Barcelona that time, I want you to get that feeling. Well, maybe we should plan a couple years from now. We can't do it maybe this upcoming year, but maybe the following year, as long as we're feeling good, maybe we try Barcelona and Ibiza. I hear that those places are great.
Ibiza.
That's what I know. Why not? It's just right around the way.
It's the clubbing capital of the world.
That's what I want. That's what I want our retirees to do. I want them to go to the clubbing capital of the world.
75 years old with your glow sticks.
With them and Mike Posner. Why not? Why not? It'd be just great. No, but that's the whole thing, because I want people to have those experiences because they've sacrificed so many years. They worked so many years. I want them to have the opportunity to enjoy it. Now, that puts different stresses on a portfolio. So we purposefully build our portfolio so that they can withstand that and they can last forever. One of the biggest things that Odell talked about that I think is really important, he doesn't know if the money's going to last. Every plan that we build to an 85% minimum confidence interval, but most of our clients are 99% plus, which means that if the market tanks 30%, they're still going to be okay. Interest rates go back down to zero, they're still going to be okay. If Social Security, unfortunately, has to cut some of our payments to some people, we're planning for that already. We know that they're still going to be okay. We may have to have a couple sacrifices here and there, or a couple trade-offs, or maybe we don't do that cruise next year. We got to wait the following year. But having said that, we know it's going to work because that's what we do. It's all math. It's all math, and we plan for every individual the same. So just like a 100 million earning guy gets a little frazzled about that, if you get a little frazzled about that, call our team. Let us give you the opportunity to get that out of your system, build those forever plans, and give yourself the opportunity to enjoy retirement and not stress about it.
Let's begin the conversation helping you understand about your plan, your money, your future. It's retirementsolutionshow.com, or just click on the links we've got posted in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with John Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with John and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to John's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through J. Hagan Capital, LLC, NPN number 1882794.